So I want to welcome the champions back to this instructional video with Dr. Brian Reese, and I'm Luis Sanchez with Journey GPS. Today we're going to talk about healthy coping strategies for stress and burnout. And again, for all of the champions that are watching this video, how to help and encourage your students when they're dealing with stress and burnout. And I bet you have some of your own strategies for dealing with stress and burnout, because that's a phenomenon that everybody who lives life experiences. But I'm going to start off by asking my colleague, Dr. Reese, what he does in order to cope with stress and burnout. Brian, are you familiar with stress and burnout?
Yeah, both. Let me start by saying it was college where I don't think I really dealt with any stress or burnout in high school or before high school. I'm sure I had it. You have it, everybody has. A toddler has stress, but you're not really sure what it is. I didn't really discover what stress was until college. And I had a mild anxiety attack in a chemistry class once. And it came around, I was really studying hard and not doing well, and studying hard and not doing well, and studying hard and not doing well in this organic chemistry class. And I remember sitting down once, again, trying to gear up to study very hard for an upcoming exam. And I just started feeling my heart was racing and anxious. And, I'm probably, 19 years old at the time, 20 years old at the time. And it's the first time I ever felt this way. And I was living with some friends of the family at the time. So I was able to talk to somebody about what this was. And they described, you're feeling anxiety. And so I guess the point I'm getting at here is very often the first time you kind of confront your own sense of anxiety and the way you deal with anxiety could be while you're in college. There's a tremendous amount of pressure placed on a college student. You've got to do a lot of reading or a lot of writing or a lot of computation. You've got to do a lot of work that is intellectual work. And I didn't come from that kind of background. So it created a lot of stress for me. And it took me a long time to figure out how I was going to deal with stress and manage it. I didn't sit down and talk to a counselor. You and I, Luis, grew up in a time when, you kind of thought of counseling as something that was probably a negative thing to do.
Yes. There was a stigma.
Yeah, there was a stigma attached to it. So I just kind of fumbled my way through figuring out how to deal with stress. And I guess maybe to go to a summary point of your question, how do I deal with it, is a couple of strategies. One is I try to be hyper organized. I feel like if I have 100 things going on, but I can organize those 100 things into discrete chunks of time or discrete chunks of work, my anxiety level comes down, and then I can just work. So instead of thinking of 100 things, I think of this one thing I need to get done today, and there's 2 things I need to get done tomorrow, but I'm not going to worry about it until tomorrow. That's a major approach. And then I try to break away from work and do something that is completely different from work to give me some psychological release, or like a really hard physical workout. Or just this past weekend, I moved a water faucet from one area in my backyard to another area, and it just included digging a ditch and shoveling and PVC pipes, and I like that because it's completely different than what I do from Monday through Friday. It gives me some release, so I won't just perseverate or just keep thinking about
Yes.
these problems over and over and over again. It gives me this kind of break from things. So that's how I deal with it. How about you?
I would start off by just acknowledging what you said about college being a sort of a unique stressful time for probably a lot of reasons. There's the cost of college that students frequently have to worry about. That they have some experience in preparing for classes because that's what their K-12 experience was, particularly in high school. But in
Yeah,
college, you don't have a teacher checking over your shoulder. You don't have parents usually checking over your shoulder. You
yeah,
have a lot of independence in how you do your work, so it's kind of easy to slack off a little bit and then have to pay the price for it. So, and then there's relationship stressors. So there's all kinds of stressors in college.
yeah,
It's not until much later in life when you look back on college and see it as an idealistic kind of experience, and realize how much freedom and joy there was in the experience. But at the time, it seems really stressful. You know, I remember two distinct periods of life, more than two really, but these are two that stand out. When I had acute stress, I don't relate to burnout as well, but I remember when I was in law school, and I've been divorced, I've had employment challenges, I've had lots of stressful experiences in life. But I remember when I was in law school, and I had a full-time demanding a job at the time, and I was fairly newly married at the time, and I was doing law school at night. And I didn't feel like I was doing any one of those three major commitments well.
yeah,
So I remember checking into the hospital because I had these acute chest pains and I thought I was
yeah.
having a heart attack. And it turned
Mhm.
out just to be stress. They sent me right back out, and I had to learn to sort of manage those things better. I don't remember how I did so, but I just had a little more consciousness about it all. And then a week before I turned 60, I had quadruple bypass surgery. Now, I had a divorce behind me at the time. I had a demanding position in the community college system. And I was involved in some, heavy duty negotiations, labor negotiations. So there were a lot of stressors. There was some financial pressure as well. And making sure my kids are okay has always been a high priority. And sometimes I've had more reason to worry about them than others.
Yeah,
So there was a lot of stressors in life. And I remember going into the my doctor noticed something unusual in my heartbeat, sent me to a cardiologist. He stared at a chart for a long, long time, and then asked me if I'd had a silent heart attack. And I said, no, not to my knowledge, I haven't. And he said, didn't you feel intense pressure on your chest? And I said, I just thought that was life. I thought everybody had intense pressure on their chest. But obviously, that was just the accumulation of a lot of stressors in life, resulting in bypass surgery. So I came to sort of a realization that I needed to do a little bit better job of taking care of myself physically as well as psychologically. So here's what I do to try to manage stress. And the thing is, if you like a life of responsibility, as I do, it comes with stress. Those are the two choices in life, either a stressful life or a boring life. And I prefer a stressful life to a boring life.
yeah, yeah,
Um, most mornings I start off with a 2 mile walk, and that 2 mile walk is good for exercise, but it also I focus on gratitude. This is not from a particular religious background, but I focus on all the things that I'm grateful for in life, and there's many things that I'm grateful for in life, and it just helps to put my mind in a good, positive place. I also try to pay attention to getting some physical exercise. So I play golf once a week, and those walks, as well as going to the gym, they're helpful to that. I have a couple of practices in the morning. I read for about an hour every morning. I like history and biographies, and I write. I've written a couple novels and working on a memoir. And I find that reading gives me a chance to reflect on life from a different vantage point, and writing gives me a chance to sort of purge or exorcise all the thoughts and the
yeah.
challenges that are inside of me. So between those things. And I should also say that having a strong, positive primary relationship with my wife, that's also helpful too, because I've had the opposite. I've had stressful relationships, and those tend to detract, from your overall psychological well-being. What else would you add, Brian? Is there what else should we pass along to champions? Is they're trying, not all students are going to tell their champions, I have high levels of stress or anxiety. They might
Yeah.
not recognize it. They might, like me, think that's just normal, and not recognize the danger of it. Or they might be a little bashful about sharing it with their champions. What should the champions do to be able to really reach out to the students and help them through these challenges?
Well, first of all, I think, if you're a champion who's, past the college going years, let's say you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, like us, the you got a lot of life under your belt, and you have gone through stress, you've gone through marriage problems, or you've gone through relationship problems, you've gone through work problems, you've gone through financial problems. All those classic stressors have probably been in your life, and you've gotten over them. And you might think, are you kidding me? You're stressed out about a final exam. Get some perspective in your life. It's really easy to say that, right?
Yes.
Because you've been through some hard stuff. But if you're the student that you're supporting as their champion is a traditional age student, 18 to 25, this is the most stressful thing they've probably been through. So they don't have this, they don't have the muscle that you have or the skill that you have to deal with stress. They might not even recognize what stress is yet. So I think you really need to exercise your empathy for students, understanding that, okay, yeah, um, the real stress in their life is coming. It's going to happen later on when the big things happen. But that's not the focus right now. The focus is, this is the biggest thing happening in their life right now, and you helping them recognize stress and start their personal strategy for dealing with stress is something that could be super, super valuable. They might be stressed out and they don't even know it. And you just helping them reach the consciousness that this is stress. That's what stress feels like. And here are the things that people do when they're stressed out to alleviate that stress, to manage that stress. So recognizing it, realizing that a purposeful life always has stress in it. And what you need to do is not eliminate the stress, but somehow figure out how to manage the stress is probably more of an appropriate role. So I think, of all the things that we're asking champions to help their students with, this one is really something that they can have a direct impact on, and really help their students with this.
I want to end on that note. There's some sage advice in that, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to have a mental health counselor, a therapist, possibly, to interview them and have them share some of their own insights about the best way to encourage a student who is experiencing stress and burnout. So thank you again for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you very soon.